All right, very good morning, students. Welcome to VB607 course, Proteomics. We are going to have a student presentation about different projects which you have done utilizing different type of software and workflow which you have learned in this course. Today we have 5 presenters who will talk about different type of clinical projects and how you can use proteomics workflow to make some meaningful sense of the data obtained from the just the raw values and Excel sheets. So the first presenter is going to be Kartikeya, who is going to talk about global proteomic analysis of COVID positive and COVID negative plasma samples and how using various machine learning approaches one could understand the host response and disease pathogenesis. So let me share the first presentation by Kartikeya.
Hello all, I am Kartikeya Jatto and this is my presentation for proteomics for the course Proteomics Principles and Techniques. My project is Global Proteomic Analysis of COVID positive versus COVID negative plasma samples by machine learning to decipher the host response towards COVID pathogenesis. First, I would like to briefly overview my presentation. I would be going through about COVID-19 project workflow, data pre-processing, data analysis, orange workflow, reactome analysis, biological interpretation, and references. About COVID-19. As you all know, COVID-19 is a rapidly spreading disease which is currently a pandemic affecting billions of lives directly or indirectly. Most common symptoms of COVID-19 include fever, cough, tiredness, loss of taste or smell, etc. It has around 3% fatality rate, even though it varies from variant to variant. Currently, there is no treatment available, no proper treatment available for the disease, and it is always better to control the spread. And it is important to understand how the virus functions in the host body. This project focuses on the response of the host towards COVID-19 pathogenesis. My project workflow. The project workflow goes in the following manner. The data is being pre-processed through MetaBanalyst and will create a model in Orange data menu. The result from these is used to analyze in Reactome to get the significant pathways. And we'll make a biological interpretation based on these pathways. Data pre-processing. The given data consists of two groups, positive and negative, 71 samples and 1206 peaks. It also contained 58.7% missing values. The pre-processing of the data has been done in the following steps. Features with more than 30% missing values are removed. The remaining missing values are computed using feature-wise KNN. The normalization is done by median, lateral log transform, and range scale. Here you can see the data before normalization and after normalization. Data analysis. Here you can see the PCA plot of the data, and here is a heat map of the data. Here is the t-test and volcano plot conducted on the data. For the t-test, I have used the threshold 0.1, and for the volcano plot, I have used FC threshold to fold change threshold 2 and t-test threshold 0.1. I have found 24 significantly upregulated proteins and 20 significantly downregulated proteins. Orange workflow. The normalized data from MetaBanalyst has been transposed, and top 5 columns based on the information gain ratio and Gini decrease were taken to be relevant features and processed further. The data sampler splits this into train and validation data. Later, this data is trained on 4 models and the best one is taken. Here you can see that the output of the file is going into select columns, and this output is going into rank, and this output is going into data sampler, and this output is going into the ML models, and go on to predictions and predictions to confusion matrix. Here we are making our accuracy metric as confusion matrix. Orange workflow. The 4 models taken along with the parameters of those models are SVM with polynomial kernel and parameters C equal to 1, D equal to 3. KNN with parameter k equal to 3 and Euclidean distance as metric. Neural network with 100 hidden units, Adam optimizer, ReLU actuation and 0.0001 alpha. Random forest with 10 trees and 3 as minimum depth. Among these, SVM with polynomial kernel works the best. The confusion matrix is 14207. That is, out of the 14 values the classifier has predicted as negative, all of them are negative and none of them are positive. However, in case of positive, the classifier has predicted 49 values as positive, but only 47 of them are positive and 2 of them are actually negative. Reactome analysis. The top 5 proteins considered in orange. These top 5 proteins are considered in the rank based on the information gain ratio and gene decrease. And these proteins are P04196, P17936, Q16610, P04275, P05452. These are also being shown as significant proteins in metaboanalysis as well. These proteins are used in reactome analysis. In reactome analysis, we found these to be the significant pathways. However, the most significant of them are platelet degranulation, response to elevated platelet cytosolic calcium 2+, platelet activation signaling and aggregation, hemostasis. String analysis. The proteins found in orange and along with some proteins in the metaboanalysis, significant proteins in metaboanalysis are used for the string analysis. And we find that there are 2 clusters being formed, among which one cluster has 9 nodes and the other cluster has 2 nodes. And the remaining all are disjoint nodes. Biological interpretation. Here I am going to do biological interpretation for platelet degranulation. Platelet degranulation occurs when there is a puncture in a blood vessel. This pathway releases factor V and fibrinogen. This pathway is crucial in preventing the blood loss. This occurs in 2 stages, plugging and coagulation. Here we can see that the platelets in a blood vessel, platelets will be moving closer to the cell wall. However, they won't be sticking to the endothelial cell in normal cases. However, when there is a rupture in the blood vessel or puncture, then these platelets would be sticking to the cell, to the endothelial cells. And once they stick to this, they will form a tentacle-like structure in order to increase more surface area. And in this process, they would be releasing dense granule and alpha granules. Effect of COVID-19 on platelet degranulation. PF4 and serotonin are biomarkers for platelet degranulation. In an experiment carried out by Yunus Zaid, it is observed a reduction in both PF4 and serotonin in platelets from patients with COVID-19 compared to healthy ones, whereas the reverse is found in plasma, independent of disease severity. Hence, we can see that our work is in accordance with the experiment results as well. These are the references I have used for my project. Thank you.
All right, Kartikeya, are you there? Can we speak to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, so it was short presentation, but I think you still covered mostly all the points. So my first question is,
sir, just a second, sir. I will put on my
regarding the t-test, just clarify that you mentioned the threshold as 0.1 or 0.01.
Sir, I think it was 0.1.
0.1. Do you think that is considered as significant?
Sir?
Do you think that is considered to be significant as the threshold?
I don't know.
anything which is less than 0.05 is only going to be considered significant, right? So you have to make sure that you check this out, what you did. Otherwise, all the findings will be pretty much doubtful based on that. I'm not sure we missed out while you presented, but did you show the from Metabo analyst the possible heat maps or the way of clustering the data?
I have done that, sir, but I haven't showed in the presentation.
Yeah, that I could not see that. So that is another important thing to get a sense of the data, that how the COVID positive and negative plasma samples are able to distinguish, right?
Yes,
Additionally, for the orange data set, you have not shown different models and why you pick the 5 proteins, which are the best 5 proteins. What was the rationale for choosing the 5 proteins? Based on which model?
The rationale was gene decrease and information gain ratio.
But which model was the most accurate when you tried different things in orange?
SVM, sir. Support vector machine kernel with polynomial kernel and parameters.
All right. And within these 5 proteins, can you name any protein what you have found the 5 proteins from your orange?
P04196,
P042. Not the numbers. What these numbers mean, which protein? These protein IDs. Because you spoke about platelet activation and neutrophil, these kind of pathways, right? And yes, you also highlighted PF4 and serotonin playing important role in platelet degranulation, which is all good. At least you made effort of understanding biology. But are these proteins coming from your data as well? Then only that makes sense to talk about them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They are coming from your data, or they are just being talked?
I mean, I need to check those. I haven't checked whether these proteins are exactly matching with those proteins, but the results from the reactome are matching with this, so I have made.
Right, and again, I have been discussing in the class two common points. One was regarding missing values, that when you have very large number of missing value, you should also closely look at each group separately, COVID positive group separately also and COVID negative group separately also, and see by missing value imputation individually, can you get something better? That should have been tried. Second thing is 5 protein cannot be an input list for reactome, right? So when you use 5 protein, that's where your pathways had maximum, 4 entities or 1 entity in the data set.
Yes, sir. Yes,
whereas what you should do, you should take the list of the metabolist analyzed file, which is significant and 4 change past. And also, if some of the proteins coming from the orange analysis, all that together can be an input list for reactome or string or these kind of pathway analysis. Then your confidence in the pathway will be higher. Okay? All right.
I have done that also, sir. And the result is same.
But the pathway what you showed was showing 1 entity, 5 or 4 entity like that. And
yes,
you
sir.
mentioned it is based on the 5 input what you have given from the
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
data set, right? So then, as I said,
I have done this one also, sir. I have another photo which contains 8 entities as significant.
Okay, so it's good to show these things so that we are talking about a project right now, right? So yes, in the project, how you make the meaningful sense of data, one need to look at all the process of generating that data. Okay, so you reach to some good biological conclusion, but I think the process also is very, very much important, especially for this technical class where we are looking at the steps and the methodologies, right? All right, that's all. Good, thank you. Okay, so let's continue to the second presenter now, and we will talk to Arun now, and Arun is going to also talk about COVID non-severe and severe plasma samples. And he's going to look at how these two, mild versus severe, can indicate about some possible prognosis, disease prognosis. So let's hear from Arun.
Hi everyone. Morning. I'm Arun, and my topic is Global Proteomics Analysis of COVID non-severe versus COVID severe plasma samples by machine learning approach to decipher the host response towards COVID pathogenesis. An overview of COVID-19. The outbreak of novel coronavirus disease was initially noticed in seafood market in Wuhan city in Hubei province of China in mid-December 2019, which has now spread to 215 countries worldwide. COVID-19 is caused by infection with the severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus 2, SARS-CoV-2 virus strain. The symptoms include, but not limited to, fever, cough, tiredness, loss of taste or smell. There are still at least 5,000 deaths per year in the world due to COVID-19. As it is always said, prevention is better than cure. Wearing masks, maintaining social distance at all times, sanitizing hands and arms, and more significantly, vaccinating ourselves gives us a fair chance in this fight against COVID. My workflow is as follows. The data which Sir has given has been passed into Metabo Analyst, from which the normalized data is passed into Orange, and the proteins combinedly from Metabo Analyst and Orange are passed into String and Reactome to give the final analysis. In the given data, I have 51 samples of two groups, non-severe and severe. After the data is processed, modifications are done, wherein 24,095 missing values are detected, which are essentially equal to 55.5% of the values. Missing values and data filtering. The features whose missing values are greater than 30% are eliminated from the dataset, and the remaining missing values are estimated by using feature-wise KNN. Since the dataset has less than 5,000 features, no data filtering is done in this case. Sample normalization. The sample normalization is done by median. Data transformation is done using log transformation, and data scaling is done by auto scaling. The feature view is shown in the figure by the side, contrasting the difference before and after the normalization. As we can see, after the normalization, the values are evenly spread. Volcano plot. In the volcano plot, there are 17 significantly upregulated proteins, 16 significantly downregulated proteins, 223 insignificant proteins with the FC threshold value as 2.0 and P value threshold as 0.05. PCA. The PCA graphs are as shown below. For the principal components, 20.6, 12, 8.3, 6.7, 4.4 are the values. As you can see in the scores plot, PC1 versus PC2, there is only one protein which is not in the range of the plot. PLSDA. Similar to the above case, I have taken component analysis with respect to two component 1 and component 2, from which there are only two values outside the given range, and VIP scores are also shown. Heat map. The normalized data is taken with the distance measure as Euclidean and clustering method as WAD for generating the heat map. The top 25 proteins are used in this case to view the details clearly. Coming to the ML models and Orange workflow, the normalized CSV file obtained from the Metabo Analyst is transposed and is uploaded into the Orange, wherein the data is taken from which best 5 proteins found out by the scoring methods, essentially information gain ratio and Gini decrease, are used for analysis. This reduced data is passed into data table, from where the selected data is passed on to the data sampler. The data sampler has a 70% fixed proportion of data, which is used as a training data, and the remaining is used as a testing data. The training data is passed on to 4 ML models, KNN, SVM, neural network, and random forest. The predictions are then checked using the confusion matrix, where the correctness of ML models are analyzed. Details of ML models used. SVM. Cost is 1.00, regression loss epsilon is 0.10, polynomial kernel is used, where C is equal to 1.00 and D equal to 3.0. Numerical tolerance is 0.0010, iteration limit is 100. In KNN, number of neighbors are taken as 5, metric as Euclidean, weight as uniform. In neural network, neurons in hidden layers are 100, activation as ReLU, solver as Adam, the regulation value alpha as 0.001, maximal number of iterations as 200. In random forest, number of phases are 10, number of attributes considered at each split is equal to 5, limit depth of individual trees is 3, do not split subsets smaller than 5. The results. All the ML models taken, KNN, SVM, neural network, random forest gave the same result for the test data. After trying many configurations, the conclusion is that the one test data which is predicted to be non-severe but in severe in reality is never corrected in neither of the models. All the ML models give the same success rate of 93.93% for the given data with the taken characteristics. Tau proteins and pathway analysis. For the further analysis, I have taken 20 proteins, from which 5 are from orange, 7 are from significantly upregulated metaboanalyst volcano plot, 8 from significantly downregulated metaboanalyst volcano plot. The protein list is as follows. The string analysis gave me this result, of which there is a 13-node graph and 2 2-node graphs and 3 individual components. The reactome analysis is shown as below. Total pathways identified are 125 for the given list of 20 proteins, from which top 40 are shown below. Post-translational protein phosphorylation. Post-translational modifications, PTMs, are the covalent modifications of proteins after they are translated by the ribosomes. By introducing new functional groups such as phosphate and carbohydrates, PTM extend the chemical repertoire of the 20 standard amino acids and play important roles in regulating the folding, stability, enzymatic activity, subcellular localization, and interaction of a protein with other proteins. Common PTMs involving substructural changes to the polypeptide include proteolytic cleavage and disulfide bond formation, whereas common PTMs involving the addition of functional groups include phosphorylation, glycosylation, and lipidation. Platelet degranulation. Platelet alpha and dense granule content determined by the assessment of PF4, platelet factor 4, and serotonin respectively was examined in platelets. There is a reduction in both PF4 and serotonin in platelets from patients with non-severe and severe COVID-19 in comparison with healthy volunteers. Moreover, robust increases in PF4 and serotonin levels were measured in plasma from patients with COVID-19 independent of disease severity, which might point to platelets degranulation during SARS-CoV-2 infection. Hemostasis. Hemostasis is a process to prevent and stop bleeding, meaning to keep blood within a damaged blood vessel. It is the first stage of wound healing. This involves coagulation, blood changing from a liquid to gel. While it's not unusual for infections to raise the risk of clotting, the COVID-19 virus is associated with an unprecedented range of clotting-related disorders in affected patients. From benign skin lesions on the feet to life-threatening thrombotic events, the coronavirus has demonstrated a strikingly high prevalence of deadly blood clots. Studies show that about 25% or even up to 70% of critically ill patients have confirmed venous thromboembolism, VTE, or pulmonary embolism, PE. Another study found that approximately 70% of the COVID-19 patients who died had disseminated intravascular coagulation, DIC. In conclusion, the ML models are able to predict the result of sample with more than 90% accuracy. Proteomics analysis allows us to classify data into severe and non-severe in an effective manner. All the proteins which rank in the top of orange are also in the higher position of volcano plot in the metaboanalyst. These are the references which I have used to collect information.
All right, Arun, are you there? Can we speak to you?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, all right. I can't see you.
My laptop camera is stuck up, sir. I'm sorry for that.
Okay, I'm hoping I'm talking to the right person.
Yeah.
Okay, so in your PLSD analysis, you said two values are outside, right?
Yes, sir.
And what are the two values? What those 2 points were there? What they indicate?
I've not taken up the names of it as of now.
No, not name. What those values means what here? Like values means proteins, values means features, patient, what?
Those are the outliers, like the components of the proteins, right? So
Components of?
components of the proteins.
That's not correct.
Uh, I've taken the scores of it, right?
Those two are the patients which are not fitting to the groups what you have for the non-severe and severe. So therefore, when you look at correlation plots, if the data is not looking good and there is probably, if you go back to raw mass spec data sets, then probably you may have to realize, okay, these two data itself is not good. It may not be the patient specific issue, but could be the mass spec data itself could be problem. And therefore, one could decide with rationale and then choose not to take those samples for the further investigation, right? That's what we talked in the use of correlation plots.
Okay.
Right. I am sure that while doing this project, you have learned a lot of biology and also you have understood that why COVID-19 was very difficult problem, and also the mild to severe progression leads to many type of pathway changes, right? Which include certain PTM modifications and hemostasis, which you explained.
Yes, sir.
So the question is, which of the proteins of your pathways, like PTM phosphorylation or hemostasis, which protein from your data set of orange and metabolist being mapped into these two pathways? Can you name few?
Being mapped in these two pathways in the sense.
Which of the proteins obtained from your analysis are part
Yeah.
of these pathways? Because you are talking about these pathways, right? You just talked very generic for PTM phosphorylation and hemostasis. Which
Yes, sir.
proteins from your data are actually part of these pathways?
I've not actually taken any list of these because I didn't have any time in the last. I've taken it in the last minute, so I've just written all the pathways and I have researched about these in the finest way possible.
Well, after doing all the analysis from the metabolist top proteins and the orange top proteins, and at least reaching 93% or so classifier efficiency, all of that, then you have a list of protein which is high confident proteins, right?
Yes, sir. I do have a list of 20 proteins.
So one would like to know that, where my these 20 proteins are going, in which pathways, because biologically that's what becomes more important
Yes,
to
sir.
understand that these 220 proteins are going to hemostasis, for example, or going to something else, right? So therefore, pathways should be talked in context of the proteins from your data set.
Yes, sir. Got it.
Yes. Well, I think that's pretty much for you. So overall, you made good effort of trying to put together things. Some steps were missing in some places, but overall, I think good effort. So that's all.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
All right, so let's move on to the next presenter, Malloth Mahir, going to talk about glioblastoma, a very deadly brain tumor, fourth grade of gliomas, known as GBM, glioblastoma multiforme. An idea is to look at the tumor heterogeneity of comparing the fluorescent region with the non-fluorescent region. Trick here is that this is the same tumor type. So we are talking about not healthy and disease comparison. Here we are talking about within the same disease, one region is showing less fluorescence, one region is showing high fluorescence. What could be possible clues and mechanism for this heterogeneity? That's what is going to be explained in this project.
I am Mahir, fourth year BTech computer science student, and my topic is global proteomics analysis of fluorescent versus non-fluorescent glioblastoma samples by machine learning approach to decipher the biological altercation. So, firstly, let's understand what glioblastoma is. So, glioblastoma is an aggressive type of cancer that can occur in the brain or in the spinal cord. Glioblastoma forms from cells called astrocytes, which are basically nerve support cells. Glioblastoma as such can occur at any age, but it tends to occur more often in older adults. That too, it occurs more in men than women with a ratio of 3:2. It is also the most commonly occurring primary brain tumor. It can cause worsening headaches, nausea, vomiting, and seizures. Uh, as far as the diagnosis is concerned, glioblastoma is diagnosed by a combination of CT scan, MRI scan, and tissue biopsy. Treatment of glioblastoma usually involves surgery, after which chemotherapy and radiation therapy are used. There are certain high dose steroids which can to some extent help in reducing swelling and in decreasing the symptoms. Unfortunately, glioblastoma is very difficult to treat and often cure is not possible. Only 3 to 7% of people manage to survive after 5 years of diagnosis. The 5 ALA-induced fluorescence surgery aims at improvising glioblastoma resection. This treatment is followed then by radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Fluorescence will divide the tumor into 3 parts basically, the ALA plus or the core of the tumor, ALA intense, which is the infiltrating area, and then the ALA minus. So that was about glioblastoma. Now let's move on to the data analysis part. My workflow basically consisted of MetaboAnalyst followed by Orange. Then I did pathway analysis by String and Reactive. So let's start with MetaboAnalyst. So in my dataset, there were 17 samples and 2,222 peaks in the data matrix. Samples were not paired, and there are 2 groups which were detected in the samples, and there were 14,000 missing values, or 5,012 was the number of the missing values. Coming on to missing value estimation, I firstly removed samples with more than 30% of missing values, and then other missing values were estimated using feature-wise KNN. Coming on to data normalization. So the data normalization was first done by sample normalization by median. Then log transformation was applied, and then I did range scaling. So if you look at the plot, as you can see, after normalization, we get a bias-free, almost Gaussian plot, which is better than the one that we had before. Now let's have a look at the statistical analysis performed in MetaboAnalyst. So first we have the univariate statistical analysis, fold chain analysis, and t-test. So for fold chain analysis, I used 2.2 as FC threshold, and FL or NF were the direction of comparison. So I found 92 significantly up and 165 significantly down, and other 1,475 unsignificant proteins. Coming on to t-test, the group variance was unequal and the p-value threshold was 0.1. There were 115 significant proteins and 1,617 unsignificant proteins. Next, we have the volcano plot, which is also where from where we took the data. I took the data for further analysis for pathway analysis. So the parameters were the same as before: FC threshold of 2, direction of comparison FL or NF. Group variance was unequal. P-value was 0.1. Here I had 41 significantly down, 39 significantly up, and 1,652 unsignificant proteins. Next, we have PCA. So on the left, you can see the top 5 principal components, and on the right, we have a scores plot, the 2-dimensional scores plot, which shows that the data here is homogeneous and there are no outliers. So on the left, again, we have the heat map of all the data, and on the right, we have the heat map of only the top 25 proteins. Now let's move on to Orange. So in Orange, before importing the data, so the Orange workflow is as follows. First, importing the file, followed by getting the rank. Then after that, sampling into train and test sets. Then applying various machine learning algorithms, and then their evaluation and the confusion matrix for each of them. So first, in the first step, we had to import the file, before which the CSV file had to be taken and transposed because of the nature of the shape, because of the shape of the array. Then we had to identify the targets, the target row, and other rows were taken as features. So for the rank, the scoring methods were information gain ratio and Gini decrease. I picked up top 5 proteins, top 5 attributes. Coming on to data sampler, the sampling type was a fixed proportion of the data, 90%. And so there were 16 training instances and 1 test instances. Now we'll have a look at the model parameters. So I used 4 algorithms: logistic regression, KNN, random forest, and neural network. For logistic regression, I used end-to-end regularization. My strength C was 1. For random forest, there were 5 trees with 5 attributes at each split, and I didn't split on subsets which is smaller than 5. Moving on to KNN, I picked 5 neighbors, and the metric was Euclidean, and I used uniform weights. Next, we have neural network. So in neural networks, the number of neurons in the hidden layer were 70. My activation was tanh. I used stochastic gradient descent or SGD solver. I used up to 200 iterations, and my alpha or my regularization parameter was 10 power minus 4. So out of all the models that I tried, random forest and neural networks were the best, and both had neural networks had slightly higher accuracy values, but it was very close. I had both had 1 misclassification. So in this confusion matrix, 0 refers to non-fluorescent sample, whereas 1 represents 2 fluorescent samples. We had to make this adjustment for all the algorithms to work basically. Now these are the top 20 proteins which are identified by Orange and MetaboAnalyst. In MetaboAnalyst, as I said earlier, by Volcanoplot. So the two columns on the right are basically from Volcanoplot, whereas the first one is from Orange. For the second column is upregulated pathways, whereas the third is downregulated pathways. These 3 columns, or basically 20 proteins, have been taken up further for pathway analysis using string and reactome. So we'll have a look at that first. So for string, you can see that there are 2 clusters, and one having 4 nodes, the other one having 2 nodes, and the others are disjoint, so they're unrelated to each other. Now we'll have a look at the reactome output, which is here in front of you, and there are total 276 pathways which have been identified by reactome, and I have kept top 20 pathways here. So these these pathways are the top pathways identified from our analysis, which are related to the disease, to the glioblastoma basically, and we'll take a closer look at the regulation of expression of SLIT and ROPOS, which is the top pathway here, and it is, and what I basically want to show here is that the proteomics analysis produced pathways which have been verified by literature, and we will have a look at one of them now. So coming on to regulation of expression of SLITs and ROPOS, SLIT glycoprotein and roundabout receptors, SLIT and ROPOS are basically axon guiding molecules, which also have implications in regulation of several physiological processes. Recent studies show that SLIT and ROPOS have important roles in tumorigenesis, in cancer progression, and metastasis. So the SLIT-ROPO pathway is a master regulator for multiple oncogenic signaling pathways. Coming on to its effects in glioblastoma, the expression of SLIT2 protein gets suppressed, which is something which also happens in several other cancers. So the SLIT protein pathway inhibits cell invasion and motility in glioblastoma, and both in vitro and in vivo studies have confirmed the involvement of this pathway to glioblastoma. So according to in vitro studies, CDC42 activity is linked to glioblastoma, and like the inhibition of CDC42 activity, and in vivo studies, it is the inhibition of infiltration of glioma cells. So this is basically a gist of my project, and these are the references that I've used. That is all from my side. Thank you so much.
All right, Malhot, you are there.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, very good. Yeah, so this was a complex problem of glioblastoma. In your project in the metabonalyst, you showed the p-value 0.1. Like the previous student, Arun, do you agree that the correct way of looking at significant proteins, or was there any error made here?
I am not very sure if there was an error, sir, but I noticed that in volcano plot I was getting I thought I was getting a better result with 0.1, so I continued with 0.1 for t-test as well. So
Right.
it
See,
was
main,
I had initially taken 0.05 for t-test and 0.1 for volcano plot, and that values are kind of confused me towards taking 0.1 there as well.
absolutely. So this is what you are working on, a very challenging problem of same cancer type. Within that, one region is different than another region, right?
Right.
Unlike if you compare a healthy individual with a cancer, you will see a lot of changes, right? But
Yeah.
within the same tumor, two different parts are having very minor changes, right? It can't be very drastic changes. So therefore, the number of significant proteins can't be hundreds in
Yeah.
general. If you use your rationale, right? If it was very different type of sample, then you can have large number of proteins. But in this case, you will not have too many. So therefore, when you use the actual threshold of p value less than 0.05, which is supposed to be significant, then you will have very few proteins on the volcano plot, which is quite expected. But in
Yes.
your case, when you are lowering that threshold, making 0.1, that makes it insignificant. So while you do see a lot of proteins, but they're actually not passing the t-test per se. Okay, so that's something to be kept in mind in future. And because finally what you want is the highly significant protein which can be taken forward for any kind of clinical and therapeutic purpose, right? Okay, so coming to your heat map, was that supervised or unsupervised cluster? The plots,
It
what
was sorry, sir.
in the heat map you showed, was it a supervised clustering or unsupervised?
It was unsupervised, sir.
Okay, and did you make any observation from that data? Like, when you showed those heat map, what did you understand from that data?
I didn't understand much actually from the heat map part.
Given the heterogeneity of the tumor, one could have made an observation that it is random in some way, and that's why you have to look at this data more closely for the heterogeneity, right? Okay, coming to the next question about reactome. What was the input list used for reactome analysis?
So there were total of 20 proteins, sir. I took five from orange and 15 from volcano plot. There was actually similarities, but there were some common proteins which I found. But I took 20 distinct proteins, like five from orange and 15 from volcano plot, and I took them further for pathway analysis.
Okay, so now when you did the pathways, you got slit and robos as one of the key pathway which you discussed in some detail.
Yes, sir.
Which of these proteins from the 20 actually were part of the slit and robos?
Sir, I did not go into that very much, sir, because like I did find some proteins, like which some proteins out of the top 20 proteins I selected. I saw a few names, but I couldn't actually relate them to slit and robust. But
So that's fine.
pathways,
I'm not expecting from some of you who are from more computational background to really learn a lot about those protein. But what I would have liked to see that, okay, within this pathway, can you highlight that these three entities, these five proteins are coming from my top leads, which I have identified from metabolism and orange. And these are the name of these proteins. Even if you do not know the biological function of them or the clinical relevance of them, at least, we need to know what is coming from your data. For example, you showed CDC42, one of the protein in your description. I
yes.
was curious to know, is that coming from your data or is that just because you have taken something from literature? Okay.
CDC42, sir, I read from the literature actually, sir.
Then what is the connection of this protein with the protein which you have identified? And that's where the string analysis becomes important, because sometimes you find that your protein might be interacting with some other protein and other signaling pathways. And that's where maybe CDC42 might be linked to those your proteins, not directly but indirectly. Okay,
Right.
so some of these things could have been also looked at, but given this is the slightly complex problem of comparing within the tumor and looking at heterogeneity, I think overall it was a good effort. Okay, that's all. So let's move on
Thank
to the next presentation. All right, so next will be Nikita, and The presentation is about acromegaly versus meningioma. These are two different types of tumor. One would expect a lot of differences coming from these analyses. It will be interesting to see what the clues we get from this data set, which leads us towards novel understanding of each of these disease type. So let's hear this presentation now.
Hello everyone, I am Nikita. I am a final year BTech CSE student. My project is on deep proteomic analysis of acromegaly versus high-grade meningioma samples for identification of classifiers through machine learning approach. Now let's see about acromegaly. Acromegaly is a hormonal disorder due to overproduction of growth hormone by pituitary gland during adulthood. This is usually caused by non-cancerous tumor and is very rare, a few hundred cases a year. Some of the symptoms are enlargement of face, hands and feet, pain in the joints, enlarged organs, oily skin, fatigue. Immediate treatment is required to avoid serious illness. Drugs can reduce the effect of the growth hormone. Surgery or radiation can also be used to remove tumor cells. Now let's see about meningioma. Meningioma is a tumor that arises from the meninges, which are membranes surrounding the brain and spinal cord. Cause of meningioma is not clear. Radiation therapy, female hormones, and genetics can be the causes. In most cases, this is non-cancerous. Mostly it occurs in women and is identified at older age. Symptoms depend on size of the tumor. Some symptoms are change in vision, headaches, hearing loss, seizures. Most meningiomas grow very slowly, so when there are no symptoms, no treatment is required. Later surgery or radiation can be used for treatment. This is the project workflow. I have used MetaboAnalyst to analyze the data and normalize it. And then I have given this normalized data as an input to the Orange to analyze the data using machine learning models. And then I have taken top 20 proteins from MetaboAnalyst and Orange and passed it through to String and Reactome. Now let's see about the dataset. Our dataset has total of 28 samples, in which 12 are of acromegalies and the remaining 11 are of high-grade meningiomas. And there are total 600 plus features in the dataset. Here the samples are in the columns and the features are in the rows. Now when we do the data integrity check for this dataset in the MetaboAnalyst, it has shown that there are 28% missing values that are detected, and there are two groups were detected in the samples. One is acromegaly and the other is high-grade meningioma. Now, since there are 28% missing values in our dataset, we need to do the missing value imputation. So since there are more than 6,000 features in our dataset, we can remove the features with more than 30% missing values. And for the remaining features with missing values, we can estimate the missing values using KNN feature-wise estimation. Now, after doing the missing value imputation, the data is normalized by median, and then log transformation is done on the data. As we can see, this is the data after normalization. Next, I have taken the score plot using PCA. Here I have used 95% confident region. As we can see from the plot, there is one outlier that has been detected. I have also taken the heat map from the MetaboAnalyst. From this heat map, we can say that some proteins are highly correlated with the acromegaly samples and some proteins are highly correlated with the high-grade meningioma sample. So from this we can say that proteomic analysis helps us to classify the samples. Next, I have also taken the volcano plot from the MetaboAnalyst. For in this volcano plot, I have used p-value threshold as 0.05 and FC threshold as 2.0. And from this plot, we can say that 690 proteins were significantly upregulated and 972 proteins were significantly downregulated. And some of these top proteins can also be used for string and reactome analysis. Next, I have given the normalized data to the orange, and this is my orange workflow. First, I have ranked the features using information gain ratio and gene degrees. From these features, I have taken the top 15 features and passed it to different machine learning models. The machine learning models I have used are neural networks, random forest, SVM, and KNN. After that, I have tested. After that, I have predicted the test samples using the model predictors of each model. And then I have taken the confusion matrix. For my data, all the confusion matrix have given the same result, which means that the predictions are correct. Now I have taken 20 proteins for pathway analysis. These 20 proteins are selected such that 10 proteins are from orange analysis and 10 proteins are from the volcano plot in MetaboAnalyst. The 10 proteins from orange analysis are selected after we have done the feature ranking, and the 10 proteins from MetaboAnalyst, which are from the volcano plot, are the top proteins in the volcano plot. Now I have sent these 10 proteins to string, 20 proteins to string analysis, and as we can see, every protein is individual. There are only 2 proteins which are connected. So basically, we can say that every protein is individual, and maximum there is no connection between the proteins. Then I have sent those 20 proteins for reactome pathway analysis, and I have identified there are 254 pathways total, and then after filtering them by using p-value less than 0.05, 28 pathways are identified, and I have listed all those 28 pathways here. And these are some of the references I have used to know about acromegaly and meningioma. Thank you.
All right, Nikita, are you there? Can we speak to you? Nikita, are you there? I cannot hear you. All right, in case you're not there, the Q&A part, we will deduct the marks as if the student for some reason is unable to be here for Q&A. But at least I can give my comments to your presentation if in case you are not able to join. So the workflow was correctly followed, and especially the p-value which you have considered 0.05 at multiple places of MetaboAnalyst and the reactome, those are actually good. That then gains the confidence of the data analysis part. My one question to you was whether the outlier which you showed that was one of the patient, whether you then remove that data and then reanalyze the data after showing a good correlation plot, which was not seen. Additionally, I wanted to know from the heat map whether you use supervised or unsupervised. It looked to me that it was a more supervised cluster, but I wanted to hear from you what was that type of clustering. And when you show top 10 proteins from orange and top 10 from the metabonal list, what was the common, are there a set of the protein which are common? And if they are, then, what those proteins they become biologically more interesting. And are we seeing them in acromegaly or are we seeing them in meningioma? And accordingly, then one could think about the role of these proteins. Now the pathway analysis becomes very tricky in this situation. What we are looking at two different diseases, two different type of cancer, two different type of analysis to be performed. So the proteins which are upregulated, for example, in acromegaly and downregulated in the meningioma can be one way of looking at the pathways. An alternate way could be the proteins which are upregulated in meningioma and down in the acromegaly. So even that should be looked into that. So ideally one should have come up with a two set of pathway list that, okay, the pathway ABC are coming highly prevalent in acromegaly and pathways XYZ coming more into the meningioma. And the input list should not be just 10-20 proteins, should be ideally all the significant proteins obtained from your metabonal list and the t-test pass protein. So these are some of the comments. Also, you have not talked anything about the role of the pathways or the any relevance of these proteins. That should be looked into that. Okay, overall good effort, but I think there has been more issues which you should also address and definitely be present here to make sure that you get the best of your effort, what you have done. All right, let's move on to the last presenter, and the last presenter is going to be here. Krishna Shankar is going to talk about Cushing versus non-functional pituitary adenomas. And Krishna Shankar, I have not seen your video. You have sent the PPT. So I would ask you to share your screen and make the presentation live. Right, I have not received any video from
Sir, Akash here. I think his presentation contains the video. So inside the presentation, I think if we click, each slide has video.
So each side has a video.
Yes.
Well, I have saved this slide. Let me see like what we can play from that. Krishna Shankar, are you there? Can you speak?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Okay.
I'm Krishna Shankar, and I'm going to present on the topic.
Okay, all right. So we will try to play from here. Okay.
Proteomics and analysis of cuisine versus NFPA sample for identification of classifiers through machine learning approach. So the overview of my PPT is, first of all, I will go through the background, the data analysis part, then development of ML models, then the pathway analysis, then the reference. So coming to Cushing syndrome is a disorder that occurs when your body makes too much of hormone, cortisol, over a long period of time. Cushing syndrome most often affects adults, usually aged between 30 to 50. The pituitary tumor, also called pituitary adenomas, are non-cancerous growth on the pituitary gland. These pituitary tumors make too much of ACTH, causing the adrenal to make too much cortisols. Pituitary tumor that make too much of ATCH cause 8 out of 10 cases of Cushing syndrome. Non-functional pituitary adenomas, NFPAs. NFPAs is a benign growth in pituitary gland. It accounts for the 50% of the pituitary adenomas with approximately 70 to 90 cases per 1 million people. These tumors do not result in symptoms based on the excess production of hormones. Because of this, doctor cannot diagnose it until the tumor affects other structure and result in visual loss or headache or something like this. So for this project, I've done the workflow was, first of all, the data was basically analyzed in Metapro analysis. Then after that in orange, then the other data which was taken out was then analyzed on Reactome, and then so in Metapro analysis, I have done the data analysis part, and in that I found that there was no missing values. And afterward, the normalization was done, in which normalization by median was done, and the log transformation was there. And you can see the data which was obtained from there. from doing after doing the normalization and the log transformation. Afterward, the FC analysis of the data was done, in which the comparison was basically Q-seen versus NFPA. The fold change was 2. So the significant upregulated proteins were 879 and the significant downregulated protein were 839. And the t-test was performed afterward, in which group variance was taken unequal. The p-value was 0.05 and significant proteins were 2280. And afterward, the volcano plot was generated, in which the p-value was less than 0.05 and the FC value was 2, and the significant upregulated proteins were 748 and the significant downregulated proteins were 694. And afterward, the PC analysis was done, in which we have found basically 2 outliers which were taken care of. And afterward, the VIP score, the VIP table of the data was generated, in which 15 proteins were selected for the further analysis. And the 15 protein which we were taken from metabolic analysis were taken forward, and in orange, the model was basically. In orange, the analysis was done, in which I have used 4 different models: neural network, SVM, KNN, and random forest. And this was basically the network which was used to do the analysis in orange. And the models which were used and the values which were taken were that in neural network, the hidden layers were 100, the regularization A value was 0.001, and the maximum iteration was 200. And SVM, the kernel was RBF, and the iteration limit was 100. And the KNN, the number of neighbors were taken 5 and the weight was uniform. In the random forest, the number of trees were taken 10. And after doing the analysis, it was found that the KNN model has the maximum accuracy of that turned out to be 1, and this was the confusion matrix that was derived from the KNN model. And the data which was obtained from meta-analysis, that 15 protein were taken, so the same protein were used in the orange, and that was also taken forward for the string analysis, and which the result came out to with this. And as we can see that there was not much correlation between those proteins, but there were only 6 proteins which were related. And afterward, those 15 proteins were taken for the reactome analysis, and there were 25 pathways which were obtained, whose p-value was less than 0.05. And here I have shown 10 different pathways, top 10 pathways. And these were the references which were used for the analysis. Coming to the conclusion of the project was that that KNN model was the most appropriate model which can be used to differentiate NFPA and Q-seen syndrome using those 15 protein data which was shown earlier. Thank you.
All right. Are you there, Krishna Mohan, to talk? Krishna Shankar, in fact, just wanted to check the name. So are you there? Can we talk? I'm not sure, I cannot hear anything. So just sending the video is not going to make an impact, just to be clear for all of you. Please make sure that you are here for Q&A session, because finally we want to understand, what you've understood from the project, and you are able to explain the things well or not. So in case you have also missed out, you will be not able to get marks for the Q&A session, what is supposed to be, live here. But just broad comments. I think steps were taken forward correctly. It was not clear whether the outliers that you showed was actually removed for the analysis or not. And as you went along the pathways or any of the significant proteins, none of those were actually discussed. See, even if you students are coming from different background, and may not have too much understanding of the biology or clinical detail, it still becomes very important to at least make some effort of trying to justify what you got at the end. What can be the best conclusion from your findings, from your analysis. That is missing in a couple of presentations, at least today, which I saw. Because after doing all the analysis, finally you should make a minimum effort of seeing that which of the most significant proteins are getting mapped to which pathways, and is there any literature known for these proteins or these pathways in context of the disease which you are working on. It's a very simple thing, just go to Google Scholar or PubMed and look at that protein ID what you have, and just search for the Cushing, what is known for this particular protein for Cushing. And that will hardly take you 10 clicks, to know is there anything coming based on that or not. And few proteins, one or two, might be able to show directly in the context of that disease, and many may not, right? So then at least then you should also feel happy that you have identified something new in context of that disease. So again, if you do not explain the disease mechanism and pathways and understanding of that, that is fine. At least the ML group which we have made, we are expecting more towards talking about the data analysis approach, but then at least show a little bit more effort towards the classifiers and ML part. For example, when you show different models coming from Orange, your rationale of choosing them, the tweaking the parameters, then using maybe a subset of the data as a blinded data set, trying to then validate that data set. So many of these things can be explained in confidence, and then as well as take the best lead out of your data for 4 or 5 top proteins, and show that what those proteins are and what is known about those proteins in literature or in the context of that disease, what is known, or whether you think something new you have found out which looks very high confident and of interest to you. So that will make a presentation complete. Otherwise, presentation becomes very objective in sense that, okay, I have taken data, I have tried 4 softwares and this is output. Now you take it and you understand what that data means, right? So that's where some more effort and interest could at least lead you to some interesting conclusion of the project. All right, so presentations were a bit short, and I have already given my comments to all of you. So that's where we are going to close today. But just let me remind all the students here that the last presentations are scheduled on Friday. Ideally, we have scheduled only 2 more, but anyone who has requested us, they have missed out the presentations earlier for some reasons. This is the last opportunity going to be. We are giving an opportunity to make the presentation on Friday. After that, please do not make any request, because there will be no time and no possibility to make any exception. And I'm not going to scale up and scale down the grades and the scores and all that. Some of you, like to request that, okay, based on your other performance, whether I can, give you the scaling for this part of the thing, which is not possible. It is quite substantial part of the grading, 22 marks, 20 from the presentations as well as 2 marks from the in fact, writing assignments are much more. So all of that is going to be, we cannot do the scaling up to give you the credit for that purpose. So you have to perform here. And so this will be the last opportunity to make anybody who has missed out presentations to share the recordings to us by tomorrow, and we can slot you on Friday. If we do not get that, then of course we are going to give 0 marks for that presentation aspect, and if you have not done the writing assignment for that purpose. From there, I am going to take over and going to move to some new modules and talk to you about interactomics, protein microarrays, label-free biosensors, and those are going to be taken forward for your end sem examinations and other activities. That's all for today. We will shortly give you the assignments, and I'll upload today's video. Is there any questions or any comments from anybody? Any students have any questions or any comments or anything you would like to add? All right, if not, we will stop today and we will meet again on Friday. Thank you.